wonder why some people just seem to thrive on challenges, while other people kind of crumble at the first sign of trouble? Well, the answer might just be in this really powerful idea from a Stanford psychologist named Carol Dweck. It's a concept that completely redefines how we think about success and failure. And honestly, it all started with a discovery that nobody saw coming. So picture this. You're a researcher and you're giving a bunch of 10-year-olds some puzzles that are way too hard for them. You're expecting them to get frustrated, right? Maybe even a little upset. But instead, one of the boys just pulls his chair up, rubs his hands together, and with a huge grin says, "I love a challenge." Another one looks up at the researcher and says, "I was hoping this would be informative." I mean, what is going on with these kids? That one reaction, that one little exclamation, it kicked off a lifelong quest for Dweck. Why is it that some of us see a setback and immediately think, well, I'm just not good enough, while other people see the exact same failure as an opportunity, maybe even a gift? Turns out the answer is a total game changer. So, as Dweck dug deeper and deeper into these really surprising reactions, she started to uncover this fundamental pattern. It was like this deep, invisible belief that completely separated the two groups of children. And here's the key. This is the big insight. The kids who were excited by the hard puzzles, they didn't see the difficulty as a sign that they were dumb. Not at all. They had a completely different way of looking at it. They believed that by struggling with the puzzle, their brains were literally forming new connections and getting stronger. They weren't failing, they were learning. So this fundamental difference in perspective, this is what led Dweck to identify two totally distinct mindsets. These two core beliefs that, believe it or not, shape pretty much every single aspect of our lives. And here they are. On one side, you've got the fixed mindset. This is the belief that your qualities, your intelligence, your personality, your talent, they're all just carved in stone. You've got a certain amount, and that's that. But on the other side, you've got the growth mindset. This is the belief that your basic abilities are things you can actually build on through your dedication and hard work. When you're stuck in a fixed mindset, your whole life becomes this constant test. Every single situation, a project at work, a test in school, even a first date, it all feels like a judgment on you. That little voice in your head is just relentless. Will I succeed or will I fail? Am I going to look smart or am I going to look dumb? It's just this constant need to prove yourself over and over again. But the growth mindset, it's completely different. It creates this real passion for learning. I mean, the logic is pretty simple, right? Why waste all your time trying to prove over and over that you're great when you could just be getting better? This is what fuels real resilience. It's that drive to stretch yourself and to stick with something, especially when it's not going well. This way of thinking completely reframes the whole idea of potential. A growth mindset basically says a person's true potential is something you can't even know. Who could have predicted what they'd become? I mean, think about it. People like Darwin and Tolstoy, they were considered pretty ordinary kids. The legendary golfer Ben Hogan was actually told he was clumsy and uncoordinated. Their greatness wasn't just born, it was built through years and years of passion and effort. Okay, so how does this actually play out in the real world? Because these beliefs, they don't just stay in your head, they literally create completely different realities for us, changing the very meaning of success, failure, and effort. Let's just run a quick thought experiment. Imagine you're having a really bad day, okay? You get a C+ on a midterm in a class you actually like, then you find a parking ticket on your car, and to top it all off, you call your best friend a vent, and they just kind of brush you off. So how do you react? Well, if you're in a fixed mindset, these pretty minor setbacks can feel absolutely catastrophic. You don't just think, I failed that test. No, you think, I am a failure. These events become this direct measure of who you are and what you're worth. And that internal voice, it just gets so dark, so absolute. But now, look at the difference from a growth mindset. The exact same set of bad events triggers a completely constructive response. It's not about judging yourself. It's about solving the problem. I need to try harder. I can pull up my grade. I'll call my friend later. See? A setback isn't some final verdict. It's just feedback. It's information you can use to learn and improve. This brings us to probably the most fascinating difference between the two mindsets, what effort means. And this Calvin and Hobbes cartoon just nails it perfectly. For Calvin, seeing his friend working hard actually makes him question if she's smart. Because in the fixed mindset world, effort is a bad sign. It means you're not a natural. If you were really smart, it would just be easy.
So let's just break it down. It is this simple. The two mindsets have completely opposite views on what effort is. For the fixed mindset, effort is a bad thing. It's a sign that you don't have the talent. But for the growth mindset, effort is everything. Effort is the thing that makes you smart. It's what takes your ability and actually turns it into accomplishment.
Okay, and now for the most important, most powerful takeaway of all of this. These mindsets, they are not permanent. You're not just born a fixed mindset person or a growth mindset person. It's not who you are. Your mindset is actually a choice. This right here is the empowering heart of this whole idea. A mindset is just a belief. Yeah, it's a powerful belief, for sure. But in the end, it's just a thought in your head. And you have the power to change your thoughts. By just understanding that these two worlds exist, you can consciously choose which one you want to live in. So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. What's something that you've always wanted to do, but you've been avoiding because you're afraid you just don't have the natural talent for it? Maybe learning an instrument, or a new language, or starting that business. What if you saw that fear not as a final judgment, but just as a starting point, the beginning of your growth?